This video is made possible by our sponsors, AJA. We'd like to thank AJA for all their support and tell you to go to aja.com for all your production and post-production needs. Hi, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. Each week, we interview a film professional to discuss their work, and this week I'm joined by cinematographer Chris Kempinski, whose work includes Sci-Fi's Day of the Dead, The Babysitter's Club, and Kung Fu for the CW, just to name a few. Welcome to the show, Christopher.
Hey, thank you very much. Yeah, nice to be here.
I guess my first question for you, because you've been working on Kung Fu, and I think you just did season 3. So how did you get involved with that project?
Well, I came in on season 2. A cinematographer that was already working on the show for season 1, Lindsay George. She and I knew each other in the past, and I think she put my name forward, and I made it through all the interviews, and I was really excited about the project just because of the fighting and the stunt team involved and the producers. So I met Joe, the showrunner, and we just hit it off. We talked the same language. We seemed to have the same idea on how the tone of the show and everything, and I was a good fit because I was able to. Lindsay set a good tone, I thought, for season 1, and I was able to continue that and actually push it a lot more, which I was really excited about.
Now, with fight choreography, like, how do you work with the choreographers of that fight to get the feeling and the sort of, or how do you approach, I guess, shooting a fight?
Yeah, so Andrew Chen was the coordinator, and Yusuf Ahmed was it was his right hand, and we'd all read the script, and they would talk with Christina and Bob, the creators of the show, to see what kind of fight it was, if there was any special things that needed to be revealed, because a lot of our fights had dialogue and talking between them. There'd be fight, and then there'd be dialogue in between. So a lot of the times the fight and the dialogue had to match in terms of like what we were trying to project as the characters are the character arc or whatever was happening. So that sometimes they would talk to them, but when it came to my job, they would pretty much do a previs and almost on their own, just of how they pictured the fight, and they would come and bring that to the director and we would watch their mock-up of their previs, and they would get our opinion. We would actually go to their practice rehearsal studio, and we'd watch all of the stunt performers do the fight, and they would I'd say, hey, like maybe it would be cool if we had a crane on this day, and we had a high angle that kind of came down and swooped in, during this part, or, we don't like this kick, or could this kick come to the camera rather than be, kick away from the camera, or whatever it may be. And so they would listen to the director and I, and take our input and then modify the choreography and then shoot it again, like as a previs. And then that's when they'd send it to the network. So that's when the network looked at it and to get their approval. And once they had their approval, then they'd start rehearsing with the cast and making sure, which shots were stunt performers and which shots the cast could actually handle on their own. So it's a fun process. For at the time that we're given and a TV schedule, it makes it harder. I mean, because you're always up against the clock, but I don't think that changes with bigger budget shows. You're always up against the time. You just usually have more stuff and more things to accomplish. So.
I've been a camera person for 30 years, and I fell in love with cinema. I heard there was free film school in France, and I wanted to get into the French film school. I really didn't know anything at the time, but I knew at least how to take pictures. So I said, I'll try for the image department. And then when I miraculously got into the French film school, I fell in love with working with the camera. You're following what's going to be in the movie. So that immediacy that the camera allows is what I loved from the beginning. I'm Kirsten Johnson, and this is my course about documentary cinematography.
So now you've done a lot of commercials and music videos. So what did you learn, or what have you taken from that skill set that you've brought to Kung Fu?
Well, to my surprise, like the creators of the show, Christina and Bob, were really open to just all my music video ideas. So like lens flares, lens babies, crazy camera movement. Like again, like I did a full episode where we shot kind of infrared, which I thought was, again, to me that was like full music video. You normally when I do music videos, I kind of push the camera and the lenses and the look, and then what I bring to drama is maybe 20% of that. Whereas I would pitch ideas to Christina and Bob and Joe at the network, and they'd love it. So I'd do camera tests, and I'd show them what my ideas were, just to make sure that they weren't too over the top. But they bought into everything that I pitched them. So the season 2 finale of with the blue flares, like those lenses already had, that's the, when you see those blue streaks, the anamorphic blue streaks, like we were using like those signature Panavision lenses, and I really wanted to showcase what those lenses could do. So I was actually putting mirrors directly in the shot, that as you're kind of coming through, you'd get hit with each mirror and it would hit and flare. And it was just, I smoked like so much smoke in that forest, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, like I think I was shocked that they let me kind of go full music video on a network, CW show, which is normally, I mean, I think a little more conservative. We were able to go a lot darker and a lot, again, push the look a little, which I think is what part of the success of the show was.
Well, now I do have to ask, what's a lens baby? Because I've heard lens flares, obviously, but a lens baby I've never heard the term.
A lens baby is like a squishy lens, so you can it's like a lens on a like a
bellows?
accordion bellows. That's
Yeah.
right. And then you can manipulate the lens. You can do that hand holding the lens as well. Like you don't have to have a lens baby. Like you can do it by actually hand holding the lens. But the lens baby is it's actually a brand that specifically designed to manipulate the picture. You can move the image, but you can also squish it, and you get different lenses that will give you either a spot or a streak or a blur, like a blur background. It's a neat tool. And again, it's very specific to music videos. It's not, you use it in I've seen it used in features and whatnot, but for specific things.
So like there's a lot of CG. Well, I guess every show, movie, commercial now has CG in it. So how do you work with the visual effects team to get the look and make sure everything's consistent and grounded and believable?
Yeah. I mean, our effects team was great. We were really fortunate that they were able to, again, time constraints and budget, that they were able to kind of come in and accomplish what they did on the time schedule that they had. And but it would go right from concept meeting. It's just kind of like, especially for that Red World, they didn't have that much to do there, just because I did as much in camera as I could. I tried to do as much in the camera as I could. I mean, obviously the visual effects takes over and enhances and makes everything way better than I can do on the day in the camera. But we right away, we talk about tone and color, and like, okay, this person is there's going to be a fire, and the fire is going to change from fire to like a green, so what color green, where is it coming from, what are we doing? And I would always bring lighting effects or camera effect, like a shake, like in the earthquake scene, like the earthquake scene that they had. I would do as much in camera as I could, just to help the effects, but also I find that it looks a lot more real when you're actually, the actors can see something that they're acting to, as well as the color, and it brings a third dimension into the visual side. I try not to give all of it to visual effects if I can help it, from a cinematographer's standpoint.
Now I gotta ask, because you took over on second season, so there's a couple of things. One is like picking up where someone else has left off and trying to respect what they've created, but also get your own stamp on it. But also um, the getting, because it's such a collaborative industry, like getting on the same page as everyone. Like, how do you like to approach that when you get into a show like this halfway through?
Yeah, I was really lucky. I mean, Neil Servin, I knew Neil again. He was from the first season. I think he was trying to set up like the classic kung fu. Like I think his take on it was coming at it from that 70s kind of show. And then Lindsay came in with this dark and broody kind of mode. And then I think they found a balance in season 1. So I watched that kind of unfold. And I was really excited because season 2 was totally different. I mean, season 2 had mystery and had just this sci-fi aspect to it, like this like fantasy and mysticism to it that I was again, I was really excited that they let me push it as far as I could. But I kind of looked at what was happening in season 1 and season 2. Lindsay and I shadowed Lindsay for the first. She shot the first 2 episodes of season 2, and my getting into cinematography for like my transition from lighting into camera work. I got a lot of second unit jobs where I would have to match the look that was already established. So I think that helped a lot. Like I was able to be like a, you know, I was able to just fit in and streamline and give them the same show. I may not have done it in the same direct way, but I was able to give them the same look in their show without and still put a feather in it and like to say that it was mine. But I think again by episode 5 of season 2, I was off to the races and basically doing my own thing. I mean, I think I don't. You when you look at it, I don't think you could tell that there was different cinematographers really. I mean, when it was Lindsay and I, or Jeff and I. So Jeff Wallace came in on season 3, and again, we have different ways of lighting, but I think the final product still looks like kung fu. Like I don't think you could really tell who was doing which episode. Like, and I think that's kind of half the job is knowing when you can really push it and make it your own, and when you kind of have to fall in and again, you know, Joe Menendez, the showrunner, I got him for or he was a directing producer, and I got him for 6 episodes, and it was great because he knows the tone. And I mean, we'd have like, you know, hour and a half, 2-hour tone meetings every episode discussing, you know, character arcs and what's happening and where what this is coming from, and then where it's leading. So that helped as well. Like it was a fun show. I really hope it comes back for season 4. Like we had a great cast, just an amazing cast, amazing creatives, and just like I'd say a real highlight of my career, like just in terms of just going to work every day and being excited because we were always up to something different and something new and kind of pushing the creative side as much as we could.
Now, when you get the script, like, are you making story notes on it? Are you making lighting notes? Like, how do you, you know, before you even talk to the director, like, how do you approach your script to figure out your plan?
I do exactly that. So I have my iPad and I'll open it up and I'll just start scribbling notes, because I mean, when I read a script, as I'm hoping everybody, like when you're picturing it as you're reading, like I see a vision in my head. So there's certain things that I will want to do, either camera movement or lighting or mood or tone, or and as we see locations. So like, I mean, a lot of times we'll get the script the night before, then we'll start seeing locations where certain scenes will fit into those locations that aren't already built on the stage. And then my brain starts, you know, swirling. A lot of times I'll get on a survey bus and I'll go right, sit right by the director and just start asking questions as to how they see it, because really in the end, that kind of, it's their vision that I'm trying to facilitate in a way. I mean, I still have to hold the integrity of the show together. Like they can't go way off the diving board, but I mean, I can, my job is to facilitate their vision when they read the script. And then after I hear them out, that's when I start kind of feeding in my ideas of, okay, like I think that's great, but this, what about this and what about that? How about we do a cool, drop move here, or should this be a steady cam, circle track, or like how? So we start talking things through, because again, for Kung Fu, it was hard. I think it was hard for some directors because we didn't really, we set up this idea that the action either came to the camera or the camera went to the action. And we didn't really settle down. Like the fighting kind of led into the drama. So there wasn't a lot of, people sitting at a table talking. It was, and if it was, the camera would be moving. We wouldn't really sit still very often. So some directors, aren't used to that style, and some directors, again, grabbed it and ran with it. So it's TV is busy. It's a busy schedule. But again, that being said, I mean, Richard Spate, when for that infrared episode, I think that was episode 5 of season 2. When I hopped on the survey bus, I ran straight for Richard Spate, and John Bring was the writer that was with that came up to Vancouver for the shoot. And they'd scripted that whole scene as in a black void, and it was a good portion of the episode. It was almost, I'd say, a third of the episode was in this, like realm, whatnot. And right away, I went to Richard and I said, "Hey, I don't think this is a black room. Like, I think we need to do something different." And he pitched a theater, like an old rundown, like actual like live theater, not a movie theater, but like a stage,
theatrical, I guess, or
yeah. So
theater.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So we kind of incorporated that into that a little bit, but John Bring, again, the writers and the creatives were so great. They said, "Yeah, well, that was just kind of a placeholder. Like, if you have a better idea, by all means." So then I showed Richard some pictures of an infrared documentary that was actually shot in infrared. And I said, "Look, I want to do this, but I want to mash it up with this." I showed him some old ancient Chinese tablature art that was really, that how these really vibrant reds and desaturated kind of lots of blacks and reds and stuff. And right away he's like, "That's it. That's what we need to do." So it's kind of moments like that really you can push, but if you get pushed back, you just have to know how much to fight. Because if your director's not on board, if the creatives aren't on board, you kind of have to walk a balance. And I felt very fortunate that, again, Christina, Bob, Joe, all the directors I had a really good experience. And then they really bought into what I was selling, but I also followed it up with camera tests and showed them, like physically showed them, like, look, like I'm not just, putting on, like slapping on some weird, red onto the thing. Like, I'm actually going to turn off the green channel and we're going to shift everything that was green. We're going to turn it red. And they thought it was cool. So, and I did that. Sorry. I did that for the web series Reese, which was like 10 years ago. But I didn't shift the color. I turned off the green channel to make the world, because it was like a sci-fi steampunk, dead world. So I'm like, okay, well, at the time, I'm like, well, let's just turn off the green channel and see what happens. And so we did that for that show, and it worked really well. So I'd done it before, again, in a very safe environment. Web series is not as, it grew, but at the time, web series was pretty new. So kind of going with a crazy different look was, I don't know. I thought it helped us stand out and make it look just a little bit more interesting.
Now, you might have technically just answered this question with your last answer, but is there a scene or a moment in the series that was really difficult to pull off that you're really pleased with?
Yes, there was a lot. I mean, I think the Thailand, when the two of them met each other in Thailand. I mean, Joe Menendez is a big Steven Spielberg fan, and he's even bigger Indiana Jones fan. So trying to kind of pay homage to a little Indiana Jones in the middle of Thailand with our actors in there was like, high on his list. So my idea was to have the Steadicam on a crane and drop it into the set. But we had tuk-tuks and 150 extras and then stunt choreography that all happened all at the same time. And I think I don't know. I thought it all worked out really well. It's an old technique. It's not like it was, picking up a drone off of a whatever and jumping through a building. But for TV, I was really excited that worked out so well. Like just it took a few rounds, but I think that was really that when it came together, it just worked out. It was just magic. It was pretty cool.
Now, what would you say? I have one last question for you. What would you say is your favorite guilty pleasure film or TV show to watch?
I would have to say, film wise, you're please don't judge me. UHF.
That's a great one.
With Weird Al Yankovic. I make my kids watch that movie at least yearly. There's no real anniversary to it. I just once in a while I just from top to bottom, that film is very, it just is what it is.
Did you see Weird yet? Have you seen?
No, that's why I'm probably going to stop this and go right to that.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah, that's amazing. Everything he touches was wonderful. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for letting me interview you today.
Hey, thanks for having me. No, it's a pleasure.
And that's it for this week, everyone. Make sure to check us out at filmmakeru.com or, of course, on Twitter at filmmaker_you. I'm Gordon Burkell. Thanks for watching. This video is made possible by our sponsors, AJA. We'd like to thank AJA for all their support and tell you to go to AJA.com for all your production and post-production needs.